It was a crisp autumn evening when James and his friends, Sarah, Mike, and Emily, decided to embark on a weekend adventure. They had been planning this trip for months, eager to explore the secluded lake they had heard so much about. Nestled deep within the woods, Lake Wraithwood was shrouded in mystery, with tales of strange happenings and eerie sightings. Despite the warnings from locals about the lake's dark history, the group set out with excitement and anticipation. As their small boat sliced through the tranquil waters of Lake Wraithwood, the fading sunlight cast long shadows across the surface. The dense forest loomed on either side, enveloping them in a sense of isolation. Sarah shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her as a chill wind swept through the air. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" she asked, casting a wary glance at the darkening shoreline. James flashed her a reassuring smile. "Relax, Sarah. We're here to have fun, remember? Besides, what's the worst that could happen?" But even as he spoke, a sense of unease settled over the group. The stillness of the lake seemed to amplify the sound of their own breathing, and each rustle of the trees sent a shiver down their spines. As night fell, they anchored their boat near a small cove and set up camp on the shore. A crackling fire provided warmth and light, but the darkness beyond its glow seemed to stretch on endlessly, filled with unseen terrors. Over dinner, they laughed and joked, trying to shake off their growing sense of dread. But as the fire began to die down and the shadows closed in around them, their laughter turned hollow, and they huddled closer together for comfort. Suddenly, a low, mournful wail echoed across the lake, sending a shiver down their spines. Emily gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of their pounding hearts. James swallowed hard, trying to quell the rising panic in his chest. "It's probably just the wind," he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. But as they listened, they realized that the sound was not the howling of the wind, but something far more sinister. It was a haunting melody, like the mournful lament of a ghostly choir drifting across the water. Their nerves on edge, they retreated to their tents, hoping that sleep would offer refuge from the growing sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. But as the night wore on, they found no solace in slumber. Instead, they were plagued by restless dreams filled with whispers and shadows that seemed to reach out from the darkness. Each time they awoke, they found themselves more exhausted than before, as if some unseen force was sapping their strength. As dawn broke, they emerged from their tents bleary-eyed and disheveled, the events of the night before already fading into a blur of half-remembered nightmares. But as they prepared to set out once more on the lake, they found that their troubles were far from over. The boat refused to start, despite Mike's best efforts to coax the engine back to life. Frustration mounting, they tried everything they could think of, but the motor remained stubbornly silent. Trapped in a waking nightmare, the group pressed on, their nerves fraying with each passing moment. But as they stumbled upon an abandoned cabin at the edge of the lake, they realized that their ordeal was far from over. Inside, they found evidence of a grisly past, with faded photographs and yellowed newspaper clippings hinting at the dark secrets that lay hidden within the walls. And as they explored further, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber filled with ancient artifacts and strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Terrified and desperate for answers, they began to piece together the true history of Lake Wraithwood, a history tainted by tragedy and bloodshed. They learned of the cursed souls who had once inhabited the lake, and of the terrible price they had paid for their sins. But even as they uncovered the truth, they realized that they were running out of time. The whispers grew louder, the shadows more menacing, and they knew that they could not escape the grip of the lake's dark power. In a last desperate bid for survival, they fled into the forest, the sounds of pursuit echoing in their ears. But as they stumbled blindly through the undergrowth, they knew that there was no escape from the horrors that lurked within the depths of Lake Wraithwood. And so, as the sun set once more on the tranquil waters, a new chapter began in the long and bloody history of the lake, a chapter written in the blood of those who dared to uncover its secrets. And as the darkness closed in around them, the whispers of the damned echoed across the water, a chilling reminder of the true terror that lurked beneath the surface of Lake Wraithwood. In a last desperate bid for survival, they fled into the forest, the sounds of pursuit echoing in their ears. But as they stumbled blindly through the undergrowth, they knew that there was no escape from the horrors that lurked within the depths of Lake Wraithwood. And so, as the sun set once more on the tranquil waters, a new chapter began in the long and bloody history of the lake, a chapter written in the blood of those who dared to uncover its secrets. And as the darkness closed in around them, the whispers of the damned echoed across the water, a chilling reminder of the true terror that lurked beneath the surface of Lake Wraithwood. The invitation arrived in a plain envelope, its edges frayed and its paper yellowed with age. Matthew Parker stared at it in disbelief. He hadn't heard from his old friend, Edward, in over a decade. Yet here it was, an invitation to join him on his yacht for a week-long sailing trip. Matthew remembered Edward fondly from their college days. They had been inseparable, sharing dreams of sailing the world together. But life had taken them down different paths, and they had lost touch. Still, the memories of their shared adventures lingered in Matthew's mind. Curiosity piqued, Matthew decided to accept the invitation. He packed his bags and made his way to the marina where Edward's yacht was docked. The old vessel, named the Siren's Call, loomed over the water, its white sails billowing in the wind. As Matthew stepped aboard, he was greeted by Edward, who looked older but no less enthusiastic than he remembered. They embraced, exchanging stories of the years gone by. Edward introduced Matthew to the rest of the crew, a group of seasoned sailors who had been with him for years. As they set sail, Matthew couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over him. The sea seemed darker than usual, its waves crashing against the hull with a menacing rhythm. Edward, however, was unfazed, regaling them with tales of his adventures on the open ocean. As night fell, they gathered on the deck, the stars glittering overhead. Edward produced a bottle of aged whiskey, and they toasted to old friendships and new adventures. But as the night wore on, Matthew couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something lurked beneath the surface of the water. As the days passed, Matthew grew more and more restless. Strange occurrences plagued the yacht, from unexplained noises in the night to equipment malfunctions that seemed to have no rational explanation. Edward brushed off Matthew's concerns, chalking them up to the quirks of life at sea. But Matthew couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. Every night, he was haunted by dreams of a haunting melody that seemed to call to him from the depths below. He found himself drawn to the edge of the deck, staring out into the darkness, searching for something he couldn't name. One night, as the moon hung low in the sky, Matthew heard it. The melody, sweet and sorrowful, drifted across the water, wrapping around him like a lover's embrace. He followed the sound to the bow of the ship, where he found Edward standing alone, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "What is that?" Matthew asked, his voice barely a whisper. Edward turned to him, his expression unreadable. "That, my friend, is the song of the sirens." Matthew felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard tales of the sirens, mythical creatures said to lure sailors to their doom with their enchanting voices. But he had always dismissed them as nothing more than legend. Edward explained that the sirens were very real, their voices capable of driving men mad with desire. He told Matthew of a cursed island where the sirens were said to dwell, their song echoing across the sea, drawing unsuspecting sailors to their deaths. As Edward spoke, Matthew felt a sense of dread wash over him. He knew then that they were in grave danger, that they had stumbled into a nightmare from which there might be no escape. As the days passed, the crew of the Siren's Call grew increasingly tense. The once jovial atmosphere aboard the yacht had been replaced by a sense of foreboding, as if they were all waiting for something terrible to happen. Edward remained stoic, refusing to acknowledge the danger that lurked just beyond the horizon. But Matthew could see the fear in his friend's eyes, the same fear that gnawed at his own soul. One night, as they sailed through a thick fog, they heard it again. The haunting melody of the sirens. This time, it was louder, more insistent, as if they were closing in on them with each passing moment. Edward ordered the crew to prepare for battle, his voice ringing out over the chaos. But it was too late. Before they could react, a thick mist enveloped the yacht, obscuring their vision and sending them tumbling into darkness.